Good morning and welcome to Daylight Church Online. We're just so thankful that you're joining us this morning and hope that you have a great experience. We want to let you know that if you'll go to mydaylightchurch.com, there's a card there that says Online Church. And on the Online Church card, it'll tell you everything you need to know about being a part of our online church community, how you can get involved in small groups, how you can give financially, how you can be involved in the service projects that we do. So even if you're in Kansas or Cambodia, you can sure join us and be a part of our church. We'd like you to check it out there and introduce yourself. So go to mydaylightchurch.com and check out the online church card. Thanks.
I'm not HL. Yes. I didn't want y'all to get me confused. I didn't want you to think it was me. Especially since I'm doing a talk on identity. I wanted to make sure I knew who I was when I started, right? We just finished an exhausting series on tough questions, right? I thought it was really interesting. Every week was really interesting. You never knew what was going to pop up. It's not easy by any means, not for H, not for our church, because we all struggle together through that stuff, right? But I think it's important to understand a couple of concepts. So we intentionally did that series, right? Number one, not every question has an easy black and white answer. There are things we don't understand about God, life, the Bible, ourselves. Life is complicated. God has given us the Bible to guide us, the Holy Spirit to guide us, and a great community to live it out with together. But I don't think you can isolate any of those three. Like it takes the Bible, it takes the Spirit, it takes each other. Like we need to work through these questions together. And that's why we do it the way we do it. We talk on Sunday and we have our Wednesday night group that goes through it a little bit more. Like those are intentional pieces we put in place. The other thing that was neat was that every question had a real person attached to it. It was real questions posed by real people, but it wasn't just intellectual knowledge, like tell me about this, right? Every question came from somewhere, like it came from somewhere deep. Like when you read the question, it's like it meant something, it was from somewhere. There was a person there. I think we need to remember whenever we speak, the more we think about the person behind the rule, the policy, the statement, the more we think about that person, the better we can think through the answers. When you humanize it, it's more than just, well, we need to find the answer. Here's the right answer. Here's where we need to land. When you think about the person, it becomes real. Which brings me to this week. I've had this word identity rolling around in my head. It's been in my head for weeks. You know how something's in your head, it's just there, right? So I keep putting stuff on paper. I keep writing things down. Don't forget this, say this. This is the most important, like all this stuff. I didn't have anything to tie it to. Like there was nothing that was just driving it. Like I knew this is what I was supposed to talk on, but there was nothing there just like to attach it to hang it on. I found it last week. I was at a soccer game watching one of my godsons play, and it's seniors. They're all seniors. They're all playing probably one of their last 2 or 3 games. One of the soccer moms is sitting over there, and she says, "What do I do now?" I've always been a soccer mom. Going to tournaments. All of our holidays were around tournaments. What time do we need a game? Do you have your socks, right? Did you remember to take your socks off the field? Do we need to buy another set of socks? Like all these questions, right? Like what do I do now? I've always been a soccer mom. I realized that's the question I've been trying to answer. That's the thing I need to be hanging on. So random soccer mom that I'll never see again, I'm going to answer your question. But let's look at that question again through our eyes, right? This is something we've all asked. What do I do now? What's my next step? What's missing? Like this is a question we all ask, right? Like it's coming from that soccer mom, but it's something we all ask. Loss of a job. What do I do next? Loss of a loved one. Disease. Then on the positive side, graduation, right? This was graduation season. I'm graduated. Now what? What's my next steps? Is it more education? Is it getting a job? Do I have to get a job? A promotion. Now you've got a new role. You've got a new skill. Now you've got people that work under you for the first time. What are you going to do? Like, what do I do now? New belief. A new piece of knowledge, a new piece of skill, right? So we looked at these questions that we talked about, and like there's stuff there that we had to open our minds to. What do I do with that? What do I do now? What do I do with the fact that God wants to be close to me and is okay with me asking him questions? Like, what do I do with that skill? What do I do with that new knowledge? Some you're connecting with, right? This is not just me, right? This is not just me answering my own question. I'm speaking as much as myself as I am to you. This is a rough talk to put together because a lot of it hit home. So it's my own therapy up here. So if this doesn't connect with you at all, at least it was good for me. So what do I mean by identity? Like when you hear that word, right? What do you think of identity? For me, I'm referring to the core of who you are. The core. Deep down, what's driving you? What's your reason for doing things? Like, what's your identity? And we're going to talk about some different aspects of that, but like, when I talk about identity, I'm talking about the core of who you are. Like, what's really driving you? To start, let's do this. If I ask you to introduce yourself to someone you haven't met, we had some new people that came in today. There were all kind of introductions going on. Like, what do you say? When we introduce each other at work, like there's always that moment, like you're sitting in a room and like, okay, we're going to go around the room. What's your name? How long you've been with the company? And tell us one interesting thing about yourself. Like that's always the hardest thing, the one interesting thing. Like, are we not interesting? Do we not do anything? Right? Like what? Like why is that the hardest piece? Like it's easy to rattle off the other things. So take a second. I'm going to give you a second. Think about 3 things that you would say if you're introducing yourself to someone. Like what's your hobbies, your job, your family? Like what are 3 things that you say to people? If I make you do this to your neighbor, what are you going to say? I'm going to be quiet for a second and let you think. All right, yell some out. What are some things that you introduce yourself? Like, what are some things you say? I'm a grandma, right? Retired, teacher. Like to drive fast. Parent. Where you're from, right? Hometown. Cook. There we go. Things you like to do. I like to eat. So see, the people who like to eat connect with the people who like to cook, and it's a perfect scenario, right? That's why we do community here, right? So we can find the people who like to cook and the people who like to eat. I'm one of those eaters. So if you like to cook, I'm your guy. Now remember those things you said or thought about. Because I want you to think about how deeply you're tied to those things. So I'm talking about identity being the core, right? So things that were going through your head, how deeply are you tied to those things you talked about? Your hobbies, your family, your job. Like how deeply are you tied to those things you introduce yourself as? How much do they drive your decisions? And that's what we're going to talk about. So I want to make a distinction here. So identity, what really, really drives you. And characteristics, like some things about you, right? I want to make a distinction between these two. So I want to talk about characteristics first. I'm a big proponent of assessments, tests for a purpose. Then teaching, are they learning what they're supposed to? What are the deficits? What are the strengths? Like, can we promote them to the next grade? Can we do something with it? Like, are they ready for the next thing? In coaching, right? What's their best position? Can I trust them on the field? Like, do they know what they need to know for me to put them in the game? I work at Goodwill, so I do job coaching. So there's a lot of personality assessments, job interests, all these things, like all these assessments. I want to get them in the right place and the right job. I want to get them in the right career. So assessments all the time. In church, there's one I used to do all the time. There's a class I love teaching. Ever heard The Shape? You ever seen this? So in the Christian scenario, like this is amazing, right? What are your spiritual gifts? What's your heart? Like what really drives you? What makes you cry? What makes you angry? Your abilities. What do you know how to do? Your personality. Introvert, extrovert, disc scale, what's going on with you? Like, do you really like doing everything in organized patterns, or are you random? Experiences. What's happened to you? What are the things that you've gone through? I love teaching this class because it takes all these pieces of our personality. It takes all these pieces of who we are. And it puts it together to say, this is how God designed you. This is how God is working through you. This is how God is making you. And you take those things and you take those things and you serve with them, right? It's not just finding out that you're high on the OCD scale or whatever they call that. And you have to have everything organized, and that's just an excuse the way you're going to do things, right? It's finding out this is how I am wired, and this is how I can use that for the body. This is how I can use this for Christ. This is how I can use this for things. It's really important to me to know who you are. Like, that's just one of the things I love doing, finding out who people are. Why do you do the things you do? What makes you tick? Like, I really think that's hugely important. People work and serve best in the right situations. They thrive when you're in the right spot, when you're using all these things to the best of your ability. Like you know when you're in the sweet spot, right? And you're just working and you're doing and you love it. Like, you know that. Not that you can't work outside of those situations. Like, there are times when, I'm picking my wife because she's here. Like, Claire's not an extrovert, right? She's not the person you pick to put at the greeting table, right? I heard some laughter. So some of y'all know Claire. But you know what? There are times when she works the greeting table and she's amazing at it. But that's not something you want her doing every week, right? No one will be happy about it. Because it'll just get, like, it's not her sweet spot. It's not what she does. But you put her around a table and have her talk to people all day long, right? Small groups, amazing. You just sit and listen and watch, right? It's all about finding that sweet spot, finding the place where you can serve in what you do. But that's different from your identity. That's different from your core. How you define yourself, really define yourself, like what's your really core piece? How you define yourself determines how you live your life. So it's different from a characteristic, right? I'm an extrovert. That's the thing, right? But how you define yourself, how you really define yourself, determines how you live your life. It determines how you make decisions, who you love, who you hate, where you spend your money, where you spend your time, what you talk about. Everything, like your core idea, like what you do deep down drives all of those decisions. Like there's something that drives it. So let's do a couple of examples, right? So what if you're a Bills fan, which he isn't here this morning. He was going to be on the front row, right? I can pick on the Bills because he was right here. If you're a Bills fan, like what do you spend your money on? Season tickets, stickers for your car, banners, the TV football package to make sure you can watch every game. What do you talk about all the time? Right? Who do you love? The Bills. Who do you hate? Everybody else. Especially Brady. Even though he doesn't play anymore, it's still ingrained, right? They're still a thing. Right? But it drives you because that's the thing. What about your job? What if your job is the thing that really defines you? Where do you spend your time? At work. Thinking about work. Preparing for work. Where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your thought processes? Everything you love and hate is filtered through that job. By your political affiliation? Does that drive people? What if that's your first thing? If that's your most important thing, that I'm this, like if my politics is first, that drives who you love and who you hate. That drives where you spend your money, where you spend your time, what you talk about. Like if that's your driving thing, like it's going to make it. That's going to be the thing. You're going to filter everything through that. What about your ability to do something? So cook, hike, run. People who are high-level triathletes, right? Like everything that goes in their body, they measure. Every calorie that goes out, they measure. Like everything is about that thing, right? Soccer players are the same thing. Like I knew everything. I knew every practice. I knew everything I was going to do. Like everything filtered through soccer for a long time for me. Your personality. Sometimes we find out we're introverts and extroverts, and that becomes the thing, right? Like it's all about me being an outgoing person, and everything I need to know about me is out here, and I need to tell everybody, right? Everything's about that. So that's the identity. That's the thing. But what happens when some of those things are taken away? Like what happens when that identity is taken away? I mean, what if you are a Bills fan and the team changes names, changes cities, right? What if you're attached to your job and your job changes? Or your role changes? What if you're great in school and school stops? Because eventually you have to stop. What happens when you can't play that sport anymore? What happens when you're so tied to that identity and then it's gone? What happens to you then? How do you answer this question? Like what happens? Like what's the thing? When it so defines who you are, what do you do when it's gone? Last week I heard a speaker. She was an Olympic level athlete. Did everything she was supposed to do, right, to get to the top. She won her gold medal, right? Then found out she was injured and couldn't swim for a year. It was an amazing conversation to listen to her kind of go through this, right? And kind of think through what she had to do next, right? What do I do if I'm not a swimmer anymore? But on top of that, she also realized she had to work through, she also had an eating disorder because everything was about that sport. Losing weight, getting down to weight, getting to that, like everything was filtered, like everything she did was filtered through that sport. Whether she won or lost, like everything, every win. She pulled out journal, like she talked about pulling out just journals after journals of writings of how she felt after she won and after she lost. What her weight was, like written down. Like a teenager worried that much about their weight, right? Because that was her thing, that defined her. That was her big thing. You hear stories all the time about athletes that just lose it when they can't, when they get to the NFL, get injured, like what do? How many people jump out of windows when stock market drops? How many people really, really struggle after a breakup? Right? Like it's figuring out what you do next because you tied your life so much to that thing. But what happens when it's gone? What happens when that thing that you were so into, that was so a part of you, like what happens when it's gone? How do we deal with that? First, deal with that. This is mental health plug. This is mental health words. This is mental health month. This is my plug for working on your mental health. Talk to someone, a friend, a pastor, a professional. Like deal with that first, right? Like deal with that loss. Go through those stages of grief. Talk to somebody, like everything. It wasn't part of my culture growing up to go to therapy, right? But we had a community that we dealt with and we worked with and did things with. Since I've been able to go to therapy growing up, like it helps, right? There's a thing. But if it's not your thing, like talk to somebody, get it out. It's one of the things that H talked about in one of the recent sermons was talk about it. Get it out. Let it off on someone. Let them help. Things that get bottled up explode. And explosions are never pretty. Like never. Anything that explodes, we had a drink explode in our fridge. It goes everywhere. Like it's on everything. Like it's just everywhere. Like that's what happens when you just let it bottle up and just explode. It comes out at some point in a year, in a decade. It's going to come out. Second, take a look at what you're tying yourself to. So deal with where you are. Deal with it first, right? Let's deal with the loss. But second, let's see what you're tying yourself to. If you're so tied to that girl or that guy and they go away, like, what are you going to do? Like, why are you tying yourself so much? Why is your identity tied up so much in that thing, in that job, in that career? So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. I'm going to start with Zacchaeus. I'm going to see how many pieces of technology I can have on stage at one time. So Luke 19, 1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. How many of you are doing this song in your head right now? Zacchaeus was a wheeler. Okay, not just me, good. He was a tax collector and he was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said, "Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house today." Okay. "Come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He's gone to the house of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. If I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." What was his initial identity? Like, how did they describe him? Short, tax collector, wealthy, right? Like this picture, where you have this picture of this short, rich guy, right? You've got him in your head. Then he met Jesus. Here's what I love about this story. This is one we talked about with the youth. Like, Jesus just showed up. There's no big confrontation. There's no, "You evil tax collector." Like, there's none of that. Everybody else complained because Jesus went to eat with him. But Jesus just showed up. What was Zacchaeus like after that encounter? Great words. Did he stop being a tax collector? No. So here's the thing, right? He didn't stop becoming a tax collector, but it's inferred that he's going to be a better one. Right? Next story. Paul. So this is Paul telling his story. "I am a Jew, born of Tarsus, but brought up in this city. I studied under Gamaliel, was thoroughly trained in the law of our ancestors. I was just as zealous for God as any of you are today. I persecuted the followers of the way to their death, arresting both men and women and throwing them into prison. As the high priest and all the council can themselves testify, I even obtained letters from them for their associates in Damascus and went there to bring these people to be punished. At noon, I came near to Damascus, and suddenly a bright light from heaven flashed around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice say to me, 'Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?' I said, 'Who are you, Lord?' 'I am Jesus of Nazareth, who you are persecuting.' 'What shall I do, Lord?' I asked. 'Get up and go into Damascus. There you'll be told all that you have been assigned to do.' My companions led me by the hand into Damascus, because of the brilliance of the light had blinded me. A man named Ananias came to see me. He was a devout observer of the law and highly respected among all Jews living there. He stood beside me and said, 'Brother, receive your sight.' In that very moment, I was able to see him. Then he said, 'The God of our ancestors has chosen you to know his will and see the righteous one and hear words from his mouth. You will be his witness to all the people of all you've seen and heard.' Then verse 21, the Lord said to me, 'Go, I will send you away to be to the Gentiles.'" So Paul, telling his own story, was a Jew of Jews, studied under the best, was on the council. We know about him being there when Stephen was stoned. Like, he was the guy, right? He was the next up and coming everything. In his interaction with Jesus, he met Jesus. And Jesus asked him, "Why are you persecuting me?" You see, Paul was a follower of God. He was pouring himself into following God. He really thought he was doing right. He really thought he was doing what he was supposed to do. I've learned the scripture. I know what's going on. I'm getting rid of these people who aren't doing it right. After his interaction, he had the same identity, but he had a better focus. So Zacchaeus changed his identity. He kept his job, but he changed the way he did it. With Paul, he had the same thing. He's still searching, 100% going after God, right? He just needed a little tweak. Like you're focused on the wrong thing. New focus, apostle to the Gentiles. So hilarious that God would take this guy who was the Jew of Jews and make him now the apostle to everybody else. And then you read his story through the rest of the New Testament, and it's Paul going hard after God, right? Doing everything he's supposed to do, fighting down the people who were fighting against God. Like he did, his identity was right. He was in the right place. He just needed more knowledge. And then the next story is about Rusty. How much time do we have? Plenty. I can tell you lots of story. So not to compare mine to Zacchaeus or Paul, but part of what we talk about is making it real, right? The questions come from a real place. And I'm not there. I'm still working through this. I'm still processing through. But this question of identity has been huge for me the last few years. Like just huge. 7 years ago or so, I was working a job I absolutely loved. I was respected. I was the SME, the subject matter expert. Like everybody called me about stuff, right? Making good money, doing good things, highly respected, doing what I was supposed to do. I was playing high-level soccer because that was my love. Like I never stopped playing. Now I was playing high-level adult league. It wasn't like I was playing with the kids. But I was playing, I was having a blast, right? Leading small groups at church, leading people along. I was super extrovert. I mean, like I love going to groups, to conferences. Like that's part of like what I do with my job. Is part of what I did with church. Like it was going and doing things. Like if I could get in front of people and talk to people, I loved it. Never met a stage I didn't like. Give me a mic, let me sing, let me talk. Karaoke was like a double whammy, right? Because I could sing and be in front of people, right? It's amazing. Like that's what I did, right? Led worship, led small groups, led Bible studies. I did it, like went to these things. Like that's what I did. Then the next few years happened. I lost that job. And it really hurt. What do I do now? Ended up in a job. Like, surely I can get another job, right? I'm awesome. Didn't work, right? It took me a while. And the one I found, hated. Making okay money. Going to work every day. Worked through COVID every day, right? Great blessings through that. But I just hated it. Then I found out I got this disease. Ugh. Right? So the physical stuff is easy to see, right? Rusty's got a tremor. He shakes a little bit, right? Especially when he gets nervous and he's on stage and he's shaking like this because I can't stop drinking coffee either. So it's like a double whammy, right? So I take medicine, drink coffee, and wonder why my shakes don't go away. I don't know. So I have Parkinson's. Yeah, I have Parkinson's. So I was given this fun disease. So what you see is one thing, but then there's this other stuff that's just weird, right? Like my voice is not as strong as it used to be. Where I would love to be up here and sing a whole set. Like I can make it through his worship song back there, right? I can make it through one. Speaking is a challenge. Like I'm working hard to make my voice, even with a mic, make my voice say what I wanted to do. My brain goes foggy, right? I have trouble with my facial expressions. Is that weird? Like every once in a while I'll be like, Rusty, you're still listening? Are you still there? I have to tell people in meetings, like, when you give me an idea, I'm not just blanking out. I'm not like staring past you. I'm like, sometimes I have trouble with my face. So what do you think that does to my extrovert personality? It's one of the things I'm working through and learning, right? Where I used to want to be in front of people, and I still like inside of me, I still want to be in front of people and talk to people and like do that thing. But I shake now. What do people think? My face is weird. What do people think? I don't say the same thing. Karaoke wouldn't be the same. Like, so you start withdrawing from those things. Now, if you asked me, I would not say my identity were any of those things. I would not say my identity was in my job. I would never say that. good Christian boy, right? My identity is never in my job. It's in Jesus, right? Then why did it hurt so bad? Why did it hurt so bad when it was gone? Because I'd put a whole lot more into it than I thought. It became more of my identity than I thought. What about my physical ability, the ability to play, the ability to be in front of people, to sing, to stand up and talk? Like, what about all those things? So I literally started asking these questions, still ask these questions. I'm not past it. That's why this is therapy for me. You're welcome. Am I the same person? Imagine losing your job, not just me, like you guys. Imagine losing your job, losing your significant other. Am I still the same person? Will people still like me? What did they like about Rusty? Was it my outgoing personality, bubbly, talking all the time? Like, was that really me? I also get more emotional. I think that's because I'm older. I'm not blaming that on Parkinson's. Can God still use me? But I ask that question still. And I'm not the only one in the room, not the only one listening. That question still sits in a lot of people's minds. Can God still use me if I don't have a wife, a husband, kids? Can God still use me if I'm still a Bills fan? Yeah, probably. Can God still use me? Am I still the same person? Who am I? What do I do now? Like, all these questions are real. You ask questions like that? It's not just me. Can God still use me if I fail out? Can God still use me if I'm not an extrovert? The answer to that is absolutely yes. The answer to all these is absolutely yes. Like, y'all were all yelling it out to me, right? But we're all yelling that out to each other. Can God still use me? Yes. If you look with the youth, we went probably a year just looking at interactions with Jesus and people he interacted with. And he just touched people and loved on people and talked to people. And the stories we have, it was the religious leaders that said they wanted nothing to do with him. But all these other people he interacted with, the woman at the well, woman who was unclean, Zacchaeus, Paul, who was Saul, right, who was killing Christians. Jesus interacted with all these people. Like, he reached out and talked to these people because he can still use them. He can still do that. That one of those talks I was at this week, these phrases came up. Injured, but not broken. I mean, it's just, like, the quote was something awesome and weird, but like it was this big, long statement, and this is what I wrote down. Because this is what hit for me, right? You can be injured, not broken. What you do, what you accomplish is not who you are. It's Mental Health Month, and we're talking through these things and having these conferences, and people say things like this, and we all love them and agree with them. But I don't think they go far enough. I don't think they go far enough because there's more. Do not worry about your life, what you'll eat or drink, about your body, what you will wear. Is life not more about food and the body more than about clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They don't reap or sow or store away in barns, and your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Luke 12, 4-7 is his eye is on the sparrow, right? Same idea. Psalm 36, we find shelter in his wings. 1 John 3:1. Some of these I want to read and some of them. See what great love the Father has lavished on us that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. Like, how about that for a verse? And you're not broken is awesome, right? It's a great statement. But how awesome is this? See what great love the Father has lavished on us that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. Ephesians talked about us being, same idea, being adopted by God. Romans 5:8. While we were sinners, while we were doing what we wanted to do, God died for us. Psalm 31:7. This one I like. Starting at verse 5. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Sound familiar? Into your hands I commit my spirit. Deliver me, Lord, my faithful God. I hate those who cling to worthless idols. As for me, I trust in the Lord. I will be glad and rejoice in your love, for you saw my affliction. You knew the anguish of my soul. Let that sit. That's a huge difference between you're hurt, not broken. Then God, you hear the anguish of my soul. We talked about it in our sermon a couple of weeks ago about being able to approach God, right? He wants to hear that. He wants to be in communication with you. He wants to hear what you have to say. He hears the anguish of your soul. What else we got? 14:1, don't let your heart be troubled. Galatians 5, we spent a month on the fruit of the Spirit. Psalm 46:1, you are my refuge and my strength, right? The psalmist again crying out, saying you're that. Philippians 4, this is Paul again. So we talked about him, we talked about his story. That was the beginning of his story. And he goes through all these things throughout his life in his service. This is what he writes from jail near the end. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. So Paul, whose identity was in seeking after God, could say, thanks for sending me a gift. Like, I really appreciate it. I'm glad you did it. But I don't need it because my identity is in something else. I can do all these things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, I'm still working through this stuff, as you can tell, right? And it's not going to go away. It's a constant in front of me. But it's not just me. It's constantly in front of you. Y'all are all asking the same questions. You said so. I'm not throwing any words in your mouth, right? You're all asking these same kind of questions. I was affected too much by the things I lost or thought I lost. But now I have 2 jobs now where I get to serve and love on other people. I love what I'm doing. Am I making the money I did before? No. But I love what I'm doing. I get to constantly serve people. I listen a lot more than I used to. Something about being an active extrovert. You talk a lot. You don't listen a lot. I've heard a lot more stories than I heard before. I've heard a lot more joy and pain than I had before because those stories are there. Because I take a second and I listen. God is still using me. I ask God all the time to heal me and take this away. But the other half of my prayer is to show me how I can still serve. Take this thing away. But if you're not going to, help me serve through it. My core hasn't changed. I'm probably more focused on it now. Love God, love others. Helping people take the next step. These have been my verses. These have been my things that I've always talked about. It's always been my handles, right? Helping people take the next step. Before it was as a coach, as a teacher, as up front leading and doing. And now it's sitting and hearing stories. It's learning, it's giving my experience on a different way. I'm still doing the same things. I'm just doing them different ways. My core has not changed. I am not lesser. I'm different. When he broke up with you, you don't become lesser. When you lose your job, you don't become lesser. You become different. And we go back to the shape. Now you've added a new experience, right? You've added a new tool to your tool belt. And the whole idea of that shape, if you remember, is to take those things and serve others. So take those things and do with others. So now you've got a new thing. Hey, you lost your job? I lost mine too. Right? Hey, I had a hard breakup. I'm just really struggling. Oh, great. I've done that. I've been there. Let's sit down and talk about it. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a coffee. We'll have more coffee. Let's have a decaf and sit down and talk about that. Because now that's in my tool belt, right? I've got this disease I'm struggling through. Hey, guess what? Me too. I was able to sit across from someone at work and them talk about the fact that they were just handed a terminal disease. A year ago, 2 years ago, I'd be like, man, that sucks. Let me see if I can figure out a way to talk about that with you. Now I can go, that sucks. And it means something. So I don't want it. I don't want to be the way I am. This is the way I am. How can I learn? How can I learn and how can I serve? How can I do something with it? Can God still use me? Absolutely. Does God still use me? Yes. Look at me. I'm still up here. Right? I get to be one of your pastors. I get to lead the youth. Like, huge privilege for me. Right? I get to lead your youth. I get to sit down and have conversations with them. They're amazing. I mean, I think I used to like to talk to adults, but I like talking to youth even more. Because when you listen, when you sit down and listen, 10 years ago when I was doing youth, we were throwing pie crusts at each other, water balloons, right? It's really fun, right? And you make a mess and like everything's great and fun. But I can't remember a single story from those times. But I can remember tons of stories right now. I'm not lesser. I'm different. Now, going back to our earlier exercise, what if we really get our identity from God and starting to bring it home? And I told him I always talk low. I always talk short, so prepare for extra stuff, and I'm talking long today. What if we really have Christ as our identity? Who do you love? Who do you hate? What do you talk about? How do you make decisions? Where does your money go? I'm not saying we have to talk about Jesus all the time. Hey, Jesus, 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 right? But it should change how you talk. It should change the words you say. It should change the jokes you tell. If that's your identity, if that's really the core of who you are. Where you spend your time, where you spend your money. It should really define who you are. It should affect how we talk, what advice we give, where we spend our money. Like, it should really define everything about us. So real quick application. Paul's got a great song. I still want him to do it. I know it's going to be long, but I still want you to do it because it's amazing. So he's going to come up. I'm going to go through these real fast. Get help when you need it. Friends, pastors, community, small group, help, professional help, get help. Talk through these things with somebody. Find yourself. Find what your personalities are. Find what your sweet spot is. And sometimes that's taking assessments, and sometimes that's talking to people around you. Really think about what your identity is. Where's your identity tied? What's it about? What's it for? Like, what are you doing? And I threw baptism up here because I think this is really cool. Like, one of the things we do in the Christian church is baptism is an outward sign of what's going on. Like, I want to be a follower. This is where I'm putting my identity. And we dunk you in the water. I don't know where we came up with that, but that's what we do, right? We have a great example of Jesus doing it, and they did it all the way through. Like, what are the coming clean, right? That idea. But it's just a public saying, this is my identity. This is who I follow. This is what I do. So maybe if you haven't been baptized, that's something we do around here. So let me know. But what I want you to hear is know that God still loves you. Who you are. He wants you to have life. He wants you to have life and have it to the full. All those verses that I had on the screen, all the verses, the ones that I read. He loves you and wants to know you. That's why it's okay to question him. That's why it's okay to cry out with him, to him. It's why it's okay to all those things that we talk about. Because he wants to know you. He wants to know who you are. And he wants to give you life and give you to the full.